This is Caddyshack to Corner Office. I'm Kai Sato, and today we get to sit down with my dear friend Hoyt McGarity. Hoyt, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here. I'm excited.
Hoyt, obviously, I've been tracking you down on this for years and years and years. You finally acquiesced, and we thank you. I'm going to give a little bit of a primer on your background as the president of 8am, the fact that you really came up as a golfer and not only ran Miura, ran True Spec, but now run one of the largest holding companies in golf. Anything that we're missing, anything that I should share or divulge even further to our audience of your day to day?
Look, I would like to think I'm one of the luckiest guys in golf in my job. So I couldn't be prouder to be part of 8 a.m. And it's been a trip. I mean, it's been 3 years in the making. I mean, it feels like longer than that, but a lot's happened in 3 years, and I love where I'm at.
Well, I love that company and what you guys have done, and it's getting even more exciting, not only with the traditional assets you have pertaining to golf, but all these things that you're doing to expand the game and grow it in the kind of non-traditional avenues as well. And we'll twist your arm a bit further and make you tell us a little bit about it. But just diving in on the caddying piece, a lot of people don't know this about you. I certainly didn't for a little while, and it was so cool to learn that you grew up caddying. Can you tell us where you started and how old you were?
Yeah, when I grew up I was fortunate to grow up in the Hamptons in Sagaponack, a little town in the middle of the Hamptons. But my family wasn't one of the members at any of the golf courses, right? So when I really got into golf was probably when I was around 9. And my dad passed away when I was 9, and it was some sort of a trigger where I was like obsessed with golf, and it was kind of my escape. And no one in my family even played golf except for my uncle who taught me. And so then at some point, I'm like, can't play any of the golf courses in the Hamptons because the nearest public course was probably a 45-minute drive. That was a real golf course, which is a long bicycle ride. So I ended up saying, look, I need to go caddy. Didn't know much. And I started caddying at Maidstone when I was 12 years old. And I've caddied pretty much every course in the Hamptons, but Maidstone was my first run at caddying, and it was a pretty young age. I mean, 12 years old in a caddy yard is you can learn a lot. So
No kidding.
yeah.
Not all of it good. What was it like that first day? Do you remember it at all? What were the other caddies like? What was the environment like?
Actually, my first day, if I lean back, I would say it was more of like a caddy school. So Eden Foster, the head pro at Maidstone, who's still there, and then Tony Sessa, who was the assistant at the time, went on to be the head pro at Augusta, etc. They did like a caddy school on the short course at Maidstone, and I had to go through that a couple of times. And they taught me everything, and I ended up caddying for Tony in pretty much every golf event from like 12 to 16 years old that he played in. But all I remember was getting a crash course on the etiquette of the game and where to stand and what to do. Because at 12 years old, I didn't really know all these yet. I was just really getting into it. And I do remember the caddy yard, and it was an interesting place to say the least. And I think it helped me a lot. And it also told me like I don't want to be in the caddy yard for the rest of my life, right? Like it was the start of I probably did 10 years of caddying to 12. I caddied at every course in the Hamptons, from National to Shinnecock to Maidstone to Atlantic, even the bridge when it first opened. But I really settled in at Atlantic, where I spent most of my time. And they treated me great there. But yeah, I remember that day. It was caddy school, and I would caddy for mostly just when I got out there, it'd be single bag, so I was a B caddy, and I caddy for mostly women, and Maidstone would always put me on the ninth hole during tournaments. And I don't know if you played Maidstone, but it's one of the most beautiful holes in golf, one of the best par fours. But I would stand in the dunes for 12 hours flagging golf balls all day. Which, by the way, I don't think they do anymore because you're not supposed to be in the dunes because of all the ticks and all the the things you're not supposed to be standing in.
Right, right.
But I was there every day flagging golf balls for people that would hit it high right, which is mostly every shot.
Can you recall any big mistakes that you made in some of these early days? It sounds like they put you into a lot of different odd jobs, but there's a lot of things you can mess up as a caddy, and you were definitely caddying at some rather prestigious places.
And I don't remember any crazy mistakes that I made. I mean, people would get upset about reading their putts and getting it wrong, but they can't make the putt anyway. So it was kind of like, I don't think you were online to begin with. But I actually have one funny story, and it was way further in my career. I was in college, and I was over playing in Scotland. I was playing the Scottish Am and the British Am and all these events. And I missed out on the British Am, and I ended up caddying for my good friend Gavin Deere, who ended up being the #1 player in the world for a long time, Walker Cup player. He was on my college team. And we were on the 16th hole at Royal Birkdale in a serious match. And I remember I happened to be four caddying at that point. So I wasn't back on the tee with him. I was standing in the fairway. And there was this big gorse bush was standing next to me, and he hits it straight into it. But I know where it is. So I'm out here giving the safe single, like a baseball, saying, hey, you're good. I got this. And then I see him like coming to the fairway to get another golf ball. Like he thinks I'm saying X because, they don't play baseball over there. So he totally was thrown off. And he was like, this is X. And I'm like, oh, it's safe, like baseball. So he ended up losing the match. I probably didn't help. And I felt terrible. I really felt terrible because I really was trying to be doing the right thing, and I actually did the wrong thing, and it threw him off. And I don't know if he ever forgive me for it.
That is actually something that's never come up, Hoyt. There's really no legend for the hand signals for caddies, and there's definitely a lot that's lost in translation when you have people from different countries, and baseball plays a big factor.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was so far off.
Yeah. So, can you talk through that decade and what you maybe enjoyed about it, some of the things that you've taken away from it? Um, you're kind of surrounded by a very interesting clientele at some of the most sought after places on this planet.
Yeah, I mean, look, I learned a lot in that 10 to 12 year stretch, and also probably created who I am today. I mean, you learn a lot caddying, and from a caddy yard too, right? What you want to be and don't want to be, and you see all these different aspects. And caddying for the people in the Hamptons, everyone's was very successful, right? And you hear all these great stories. You know who was good at their job. You know who was born into the money. You kind of got this whole vibe. And it really helped shape me. And I met incredible people. In fact, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for caddying. And all those people that I caddy for ended up supporting me through my journey. And I wouldn't have started True Spec or any of my businesses without the contacts I made in the Hamptons. And one in particular really took me under his wing was Rick Hartman, the head pro at Atlantic. Like, I owe Rick pretty much everything. I mean, I don't think that I would definitely not be here. He also helped me raise the money for True Spec. Like, he was an investor in True Spec, and he believed in me, and it goes along, means a lot. And that was just him watching me for 10 years. Probably be a bit lazy and make a lot of mistakes at that age, but I got better. And I think I still surprise him today. He always is like, I don't know how you went from this to this. So I owe him a lot, and I owe the Hamptons a lot. I mean, I know everyone out there, and they've all been great to me. My first investors for True Spec, like I said, I had 10 investors. I think it was like 9 from the Hamptons that backed me. And I think they just backed me because they liked me. I didn't think they ever thought I was be successful. And it was great to not only get their backing, but also make the money, do the right thing and show them that I was serious.
Yeah, can you expand on that True Spec story? Obviously, caddying golf played a huge role. It's a golf related business, but you're a real pioneer in recognizing what the opportunity was. Even more importantly, going and executing on it. So many in our audience are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. So what happened? How did caddying play a role? Some of these investors. What are some of the big kind of mistakes and pitfalls along the way that we all face as entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I went on to college. I stopped caddying immediately after college. Like, I was like, I'm done with caddying. Unless I'm caddying for someone in the PGA Tour, which I actually did for one event. I'm not really trying to caddy anymore. And I went on to play professional golf for a while. I mean, I was Canadian Tour, European Challenge Tour, South America. I was all over the world. And at the time, I wasn't bad. Like, I was making a lot of cuts, but I was never really doing anything. But I was more obsessed with the equipment side of the business than I was the playing side and or the teaching for sure. So I kind of pivoted into the club fitting business hard, and I love the technology and where the game was going. And this is right when TrackMan, this is early days for where we are today. I actually started a company in Toronto, Canada, which I'm not Canadian, called Modern Golf, which is a version of True Spec, which was successful up there. Spent probably 4 years, but it was never going to grow. Like, it was more like one shop that was great that never really had aspirations in the investment group to grow. So I left, which was the hardest thing as someone who started something or helped start it. That was the hardest day, was leaving. I remember it, January 1st, 2014, I resigned from that job, and I didn't have much. Drove back to the States, drove to New York City, and I raised money for True Spec. And by Memorial Day, I was selling clubs and started a company. So in a quick turnaround, that they believed in me, and we grew True Spec. I mean, it took off, and it was a grind. Like, we had to learn a lot. We made a lot of mistakes. We did a lot of great things. And the most important thing I did was, maybe it goes back to caddying and being friends with all these pros. And Rick Hartman, again, was a big part of this, was that, we tried to work with the pros, not against them. And they were a lot of our investors, and they would tell us when you're messing up, and they give you the honest truth, because it's also competitive. Like, they want to be club fitter. It was hard to get into these private clubs and do the right thing. We just happened to crack that and continue to this day. I think we've been over 200 private clubs in the States, and growing as a brand. But yeah, it's really how it started. I mean, mistakes are mistakes. I don't remember anything that really caught us. And honestly, we sold the company in February of 2018. So a quick turn, right, to Howard Milstein, who's now my business partner and, kind of mentor and everything around me. I mean, he's been incredible to work with on the day to day, and he really kind of propelled me to where I am today. Like, I lucky at Modern, great at True Spec, and then Howard saw something in me and kind of brought me to this created this holding company with me.
Yeah, can you expand on that story just in case people aren't familiar? Or what's the story to this point? And I know you guys have some very exciting things on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, look, I would say Howard and I found, and look, and I knew everyone in the Hamptons, but I didn't know Howard, which was odd because, I'll give you a funny story. It was when Howard first called me. Kelly Stencil, another pro at Atlantic at the time, teaching pro, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I was running True Spec. I guess Howard went through a club fitting and really enjoyed the experience, and said, I need to meet this person that's running the company." And they said, "Hey, will you speak to Howard Milstein about Miura golf?" And I was like, "Oh, he wants to buy a set of mirrors, no problem." Like, like, I'm in the club fitting world. Of course I'll talk to him. And I remember calling in on like a dial-in number, and there was like 4 or 5 people on the call, and I'm like, this is odd. Like, I guess he doesn't want to set. And I realized that he was about to buy Miura Golf, the company. And he said a couple of great things. I gave him my honest opinion on things. And I think from that moment, because I was honest, he was like, "I'd love to work with this guy," right? And he ended up making the investment in True Spec and buying the company. And then I would say this all happened in February of 18, but it was more in 17 leading up to February of 18. And we bought golf.com, Golf Magazine. We started to roll up businesses right away. I mean, he acquired True Spec and golf.com, Golf Magazine in the same month. But it felt like a year and a half of working with him, but it all happened really quickly. And then he said, I'd like to we formed a holding company, and we called it 8 a.m. Golf. And, I run the day to day on all the businesses and report to Howard, but he's super involved, which is fantastic. Like, people don't realize it too, that he's a golfer, but he's a business guy first, right? And I appreciated that, because a lot of guys I knew were always on their golf trips and doing all the stuff that they do. Howard was more interested in the sport as an investment and how to create something really neat and best in class products. And honestly, that was probably why I did the deal with him. Like, he was a fantastic guy that could teach me a lot. Plus, he was bringing me from one business into 4 or 5. Now we have 12. And I speak to him on a daily basis, and I'm learning things that I never thought I could learn from a guy like that who's so sharp. And I'm just lucky to have this job that I owe him. I owe him big time.
And Golf's lucky to have you guys. You guys are doing a lot of great things for the sport. So, can you talk about some major lessons from your caddying days? You did it for a while. You met all sorts of figures. You built a, a business in the sport of golf. What something that really stands out?
I think I've learned my people skills caddy, like big time. Like I was never the shyest kid in the world, but I learned a lot communicating with people that are very interesting in the world, that are intimidating. And I think that proved to be something that I ended up being pretty good at later in life, was that I was never really intimidated by anybody or how wealthy. I mean, I've been fortunate to like, even driving from Canada into New York City, stepping foot in those offices and raising money. I even have documents. I just did it off the top of my head, right? And I think like I had no fear at the time, and it had a lot to do with building up those relationships plus um, the people skills, right? I think it plays a lot. And on the golf side of things, like in my golfing career, I always felt like I was never a member at any of these clubs, like I said. So I always had to caddy to play, which you can only play like once or twice a week at best. And I was pretty competitive, like, full scholarship to college, the whole thing. And I actually didn't play golf in the summers. I caddied, but I thought I learned a lot from another perspective of the game, like from behind the ropes, or not hitting the shot. It's much easier to say like, that is so dumb. Like, why are you doing that? And you forget that as a player in like hitting the shot, and you do stupid things all the time. And I actually took it, energized me for when I got back to college. Not only did I go back to college with a lot of money from caddying, which most of the people in college had no money. I actually banked a lot, so I had some fun. But I also went back with a better. I think it helped me in my college career be a better golfer because, first of all, I didn't play as much, so I wasn't burned out. But I also was like, man, it's not that hard. I wish I could bring that back today because I still make those mistakes. But at the time, I was like, why would you do that? Why don't you just do this? And
Course management's tough. That's why we need the caddies and the coaches out there. They call the timeouts.
exactly.
No, that's super helpful. You talked about Rick and you talked about Howard. Can you talk about some of the other people that you met, even if they don't know it, they didn't become significant mentors? Ironically, you and I have kind of a similar experience of my dad was out of my life for a different reason, right around the same age. And I just had so many mentors who taught me what private equity was or investment banking or, hey, you should be an operator, an investor, just how the world, especially the business world, works. Were there some more people like that who peeled back the layers and taught you things and helped point you in a certain direction?
I would say I felt like I learned a lot of it. I'm not sounding like myself. I didn't have the business background, but I felt like I learned a lot getting into modern golf and running a business with other partners. And I took that to True Spec, but I think the investment group at True Spec really taught me like board meetings and how to behave and what to report and what to do, and also get yelled at and told like, no, 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 you can't do that. So honestly, I think True Spec really shaped me, and the board at True Spec, which happens to be a lot of members at Atlantic and Maidstone, the places that I grew up, they probably taught me the most because it's intimidating to do a board meeting, especially when things aren't going well, or when they're great, they're still intimidating because they expect more. So I think that it wasn't really an individual. I mean, Howard really took me on the business world and taught me, now I'm into things that I never thought I would be in, right? And not just at 8 a.m., but on a banking level, etc. And I think I'm learning more from him than anybody, but it's also been crazy, I don't know, 7, 8 years with him at this point, like really digging in on the business side of things that aren't even in golf. So I never really had that prior to Howard. Like I learned a lot from those 4 years at True Spec with the board meetings, but I really kind of just made it happen in some weird way. Like I just put my head down and grinded it out the best I could, and until I met Howard, he gave me more structure, told bandwidth issues. Like this is when to use your energy, not to use your energy. Like listen here, don't take everyone's opinions. Be a little bit more assertive instead of asking everybody's opinion. Make a decision. You're gonna make bad ones, but someone's got to make a decision at some point, right? So again, I go back to Howard. Really, like he probably shaped me the biggest, and I have a lot to learn still.
Really well said, Hoyt. So, what do you think of the the state of caddying and golf and some of the dynamics that are taking place? You play a fair amount of golf. You're around some really awesome places that contribute to the integrity of this game. What do you think of things?
Well, I like the caddy programs to stay strong. Like I've seen some come and go or not paid attention to. Like, look, I'm in the Hamptons. Let's just say Atlantic. I'll go back to it. It has one of the best caddy programs. It has a lot to do with the leadership from Rick down, right? And they run a tight ship. But I go to some other clubs and it's a bit looser, or they don't show up on time. It's just different. So I think it really comes down to your pro or your caddy master and who you choose. But the caddies in the Hamptons are pretty strong. But also, there's a particular clientele, right? So I noticed that I go to those places and I feel great. Now at Bel Air, where we are, good caddy program too. Um, I just thought, like, I think more clubs need it. I think clubs. I always looked at this like I'm down at Albany in the Bahamas, right? And they have that same type of clientele, and they don't have a caddy program. Now it's harder on island, but I'm thinking to myself, like, think about all the kids and how many people on this island would love to, first of all, earn some real money and learn the game of golf and interact with all these great people, right? You could train people, but it takes someone, and it's a full-time job to train. Like they did me at the caddy school at Maidstone at 12 years old. Like, they actually had a program to teach me where to stand, what to do, and what not to do. I didn't know. I don't know if clubs have that. I think you just put in a resume and say, "Hey, I'm a caddy," and you get in or you don't. A Whisper Rock, where I'm at in Scottsdale, a crazy good caddy program. Plus, they're all great players. Like, the caddy that's caddying for you is so much better than you are at golf, right? So you got to remember that too. Like, when they say it's left edge and you argue, they're probably right, and you probably just hit a bad putt. So
Right.
that's
Wasn't Streelman
different.
caddying out there for
I
a
mean,
while?
they got there's so many great. Andrew Buckle was like the best player out of Australia. Like, it's real players, so you listen to them. So I always thought, like, if I was going back, I don't think I'd change anything. And I didn't love caddying. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I had some interesting stories, like, caddying at National and these places in the Hamptons. Like, man, I was getting beat up. I was being thrown in the. I was a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, right? So yeah, I used to come home like traumatized, but it also probably helped me. And now that changed when I went to Atlantic and other places, but man, it helped me work ethic big time.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the important thing. And I am curious what kind of dough you were pulling in, because that's also part of the incentive. The money's pretty good, but it's not easy work, right? It's grueling, difficult work. It's very tough, not only to appease the members, but to get along in the yard. And you got to earn your keep, and you got to earn respect.
Yeah, I mean, look, you get along in the yard quick because you've got some lifers in there, and they're from different countries, and they work hard or they're aggressive, and they sure as hell don't want to lose their loop to you, right? So I would say that the money was great. I mean, obviously in the Hamptons at the time, it was probably 80 to 100, $120 a bag, right? We carry two bags. I got out of the B caddy very quickly and onto two bags. Um, so yeah, you're making. I mean, like I said, I'd bank it in the summer. Was I going 36 a day like some of these guys? No, but I was crushing. I was trying to do my best, and man, I would go back with like 10 to 20,000 in cash. Which, going to college as a freshman or a sophomore, anytime with 20,000 in cash, like, you're doing pretty good. So I actually try to bank as much as I can. Now in the Hamptons, you know, it's easy to do to put your head down. It's so busy in the summer that it's hard to do anything else, and you don't get all the distractions. So, um, you know, caddying was my thing, right? And I kind of made the money, and I encourage every kid to be a caddy, right? And you learn a lot. Um, it shapes you,
No
and
question.
like I said, the people skills, like the interacting with this clientele, like at Bel Air, right? You don't know who you're going to caddy for, from celebrity to CEO, right? They're just interesting conversations that you can learn a lot if you pay attention, right?
And you can add a lot of value to their day and their game, right? You're the liaison, you're shepherding them through the process. No one has a George Solich has talked about that. No one makes a bigger impact than the caddy when you step on property.
Yep. And I learned that from leaving caddying or into club fitting. I mean, people love golf. Like the people I had access to and still to today, like they would never talk to me probably if I wasn't for golf, right? It'd be hard to get to them. But they call me like in the club thing days. I mean, I'm getting texts at 2, 3 in the morning. Like, I don't know what to do with my driver. What do you think? Like, you're like, first of all, what is happening right now? But it's just golf, and everyone's golf crazy that plays golf, and you know,
No,
it's
it's a real obsession. What was really moving units? Were you moving a lot of drivers and driver fittings, irons? Just I've never asked you. I'm curious.
yeah, we were everything. I mean, look, I would say that for True Spec in the early days, still today, like it was always the fitters were trained so well to beat your current product. But if they can't, they're not incentivized to sell you anything, right? So it's like if you can't show an improvement, why would you buy a new driver if you didn't hit the new one better or further? I don't know why you would, right? So, but that's good training, and that's again people skills to be able to work your way through a fitting as a fitter and help you improve. And when you show someone improvement, like you show me, people I would fit, I'd be like, hey, you picked up 17 yards with your driver. You see it, I see it. And then they'd be like, I need to ask my coach. And I'm like, dude, I don't think I'd sleep tonight if I knew I had 17 yards in the air. Like, I wouldn't even know what to do. I'd buy this driver right now, right? But if you want to sleep on it for 24 hours and ask your coach, and if your coach says no, then I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I mean, people love improving the game of golf like themselves, but caddies can have such an impact too to help them around a golf course. Don't make those mistakes, and if you can save them 1 or 2, 3 shots, it's huge. So caddies have just as much of an impact as teachers or club fitters, right? For how people play the game.
No question. So the last one is simple. You've come across a lot of people in this business and in this sport. Are there any other former caddies you think that need to be talked about, profiled, stories shared?
You know, there's one person that I haven't heard the whole story, but man, I think he'd be perfect for your show, and I can help set it up. There's a gentleman named Kirk Brown. He's head of Zoom Info Technologies. I mean, huge. I think has a $12 billion market cap at this point. And he was a caddy at Shadow Creek, and now he's this. He's an interesting story that I've not heard the full story, but talk about someone who is from caddying to running a huge company like this, publicly traded. And I don't know what his skill set was, but man, is he an incredible person too. He's just got a lot of energy, and I think he knows he's lucky too, and he's done well, and he earned it. But he knows, like, wow, I'm fortunate to have this. But yeah, he was a caddy at Shadow Creek. I don't know the full story. Love to set it up, but I would listen to that one for sure and see what he has to say about his early days to where he is today.
Let's get that one done. Appreciate it, Hoyt. Hoyt
Yeah,
McGarity, I'm lucky to call you a good friend, and I learn a lot from you. You're like a big brother to me these days, so I appreciate it. And your willingness to talk not only about your caddying experience, but how it's impacted the vast majority of your life to now running one of the most important companies in golf and working with somebody like Howard. It's really special. And it's an inspiration, my friend.
yeah. Well, thank you for having me, and I enjoy the show, and I can't wait to listen to more of these.
Sounds good, buddy. I'll talk soon.
Thank you.